important mechanism through which we will be communicating. Moreover, all the important information, your questions will be taken from the chat window itself. If you may find the chat window on the right hand side of your screen, please ensure that you can access the chat window. You may write your name, your area of expertise for better networking and ensuring the same. Also, dear participants, we will be sharing a feedback form link on the chat window itself for the smooth automated generation of your certificate of participation for today's session. The link would be shared by the nearest end of the webinar. Stay connected with us till the last of the session and own yourself a certificate of participation. So the topic for today's session is resilient humans, key to performance. We will be beginning soon with our session, dear participants. I can see many of the participants writing their name and the area of expertise. It is good for better networking also. I request remaining participants to please do the same. In another few seconds, dear participants, we will be beginning with our session. The topic for today's session is resilient humans, key to performance. Our expert speaker are Ms. Megha Joshi ma'am and Mr. Damandeep Sood sir. Both the expert speakers have joined us and we will be beginning soon, dear participants. Any doubts you face during the webinar, dear participants, you can write us on the chat window. I would be glad and I shall be facilitating those questions to our expert speakers by the nearest end of this session, dear participants.
Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, Ayushi?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Good evening.
Great. And good evening, Megha from India.
Evening, Professor Huda. Such a privilege to be here.
It's our privilege as well. Yeah, Ayushi, we may start it, please.
Okay, sir. A very pleasant evening to all the distinguished panelists and the participants. Bharati Vidyapeeth's Institute of Computer Applications and Management BVI CAMP in association with Computational Intelligence Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Computer Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Technology and Engineering Management Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section, System, Man and Cybernetics Society chapter of IEEE Delhi section, Communication Society of IEEE Delhi section, Consultants Network Affinity Group of IEEE Delhi section, Life Member Affinity Group of IEEE Delhi section, Inter-Society Relations Standing Committee of IEEE Delhi section, Industry Relations and Special Interest Group on Humanitarian Technology Standing Committees of IEEE Delhi section with the associations Computer Society of India, Institute of Information Technology Professionals, IITP, ISTE Delhi section and IETE Delhi Center as technical collaborator welcomes you all to the webinar on the topic Resilient Humans, Key to Performance. It is a moment of pride and honor to announce that we with united hands mark special contribution for the monumental occasion Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, an initiative to celebrate 75 years of glorious independence by organizing the thought-provoking sessions for our better future. The webinar is one such initiative for celebrating Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav. When we learn how to become resilient, we learn how to embrace the beautifully broad spectrum of the human experience. Resilience is a topic of growing interest in the workplace. We all know that not only organizations but even humans are hit by the hyper expectations of performance in the backdrop of digitalization due to rising costs, increasing customer demands, and new market opportunities. This is increasing challenge every coming day, which in turn is creating an imbalance in the lifestyle of especially related to mental, physical, and spiritual issues, thereby increasing stress and badly affecting the overall performances. This necessitates the requirement of high degree of resiliency amongst the humans so as to enable them to deal with all around challenges. The webinar aims to discuss its all around perspective and related approaches to develop resiliency. The webinar is aimed to discuss its all-around perspectives. I would first take this opportunity to welcome amongst us our distinguished panelists for the day. We are privileged to have amongst us a galaxy of experts. It is our pleasure to welcome Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, Sir, Head of Strategy and Growth, PSU Business, TCS. During his long career of 26 years, Saurabh, Sir, has widely traveled and has worked in multiple countries. He has received several awards in TCS for his management and leadership skills. He is a certified mentor and counselor, being passionate about mentoring young professionals on management, leadership, along with digital technology and its socio-cultural impact. He has an expertise in strategy, leadership, innovation, and coaching. He also advises young startups on designing their products along with marketing strategy. He also has his hands on academic councils and advisory boards of several engineering colleges and universities. He has been a regular mentor on Smart India hackathons organized by Ministry of Education, Government of India, and has been judged in all editions till date. He is an active member of Computer Society of India and was recently elected to the National Council of All India Management Association. I would now like to request Mr. Saurabh Agarwal, sir, to commence this session with his welcome address. Please, sir.
Thanks, Ayushi. Can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
So yeah, thanks, Ayushi. And no, first of all, I would like to compliment BVI Camp and Professor Huda for such an engaging series of webinars which has been going on for over 2 years, every week, week after week. Now, they'll soon touch a century of webinars. And I think that will be a great achievement given the environment we have had for these 2 years. The topics have been quite varied across technology and also other facets, which is so important. Now, and take today's topic, for instance. Now, there could not have been, in my view, there could not have been a more relevant topic than this in today's times. And exactly 2 years back, in June, July of 2020, when world was coming out of COVID lockdown, when the entire population had been literally locked for weeks together, and when there was this fear of known but unknown. We knew it was COVID, but what was COVID, we did not know. So that fear of known, which was unknown, the mankind still showed patience, composure, and that flexibility and elasticity. We fought with our fears during those times. When we were locked in, we knew something was saving us. But when we stepped out in June, July 2020 and beyond, we were doing it with taking those calculated risks and showing that flexibility. And that was a time when we were fighting with our fears. And we came over those fears slowly and silently. In essence, we showed resilience. We showed we are resilient, and we showed that humans are resilient. Of course, until second wave of COVID hit us, which was much more dreadful, much more traumatic, where we did see some signs of weakening resilience. And I'm sure we are going to listen some aspects of this from our experts in today's talk about such scenarios. I'll also give you another example, very brief example that occurred again during this week, 17 years back, the Mumbai rains. Mumbaikars are not strangers to rains that create havoc in their lives every year. But 26th of July 2005 was very different for every Mumbaikar. The amount of rainfall that Mumbai receives in one entire year, that city received that much, 45% of that rainfall in one single day, and in fact, that single afternoon till late evening. More than 1,000 lives were lost, and approximately 15,000 were left homeless in that one less than 24 hours. But the city that never sleeps, the city that never stops, recovered and was back on its business, back on its feet within days of this tragedy. And that's just couple of examples which shows the resilience part of humans. With that brief background, I think we are all looking forward to hear from our experts on the insights that they have to share. I know Ms. Megha has been a student of strategy and I have been a practitioner. Moreover, both Mr. Daman and Ms. Megha have been my ex-TCS colleagues. So I'm sure all of us would take back something relevant from this talk. Thank you, Ayushi.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. I would now like to request Professor M.N. Huda, sir, Director, Bharati Vidyapeeth Institute of Computer Applications and Management, BBI CAM, and Vice Chairperson, IEEE Delhi Section, to address the participants with his inspiring words. Please, sir.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
At the outset, let me take this opportunity to welcome today's valued speaker, Megha Joshi, who, despite her busy schedule, was ready to join and enlighten us. And that's how he confirmed, and she is with us, all of us. So I take this opportunity to welcome you, Megha. Yes, there are many people from TCS. My friend Saurabh is here. My friend from IEEE Delhi section, Mr. Daman, is here, whom I have requested to moderate today's session. And there are many experts, working professionals who are part of audience always and even today working in TCS. Thank you so much to all of you for having joined us. I could see many of the very senior people like Professor Subramaniam Krishnamurthy, the former chairperson of IEEE Delhi section. I could see a few very senior people from IET, Institution of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineers. I could see very senior people at the level of the vice chancellors and the dean from various universities, and they have joined silently in attendees. So I take this opportunity to welcome all my friends from various parts of the country and various parts of the work life and domain for this wonderful topic today. Friends, the topic which has been kept, resilient human. Mr. Saurabh, my friend, has rightly said that if not earlier, at least in last close to 28 to 30 months, means post-COVID, right from close to February and March 2020, all of us have faced it in one or other way. It's not only that what disasters across the world people have faced, that was only on economic front. It was huge disaster happening on part of mental, spiritual, and physical front. And that's how this topic particularly is very important. Almost for last 5-6 decades, we have been talking, most of us are from IT domain, and I still consider myself as a student of computer science. So most of us have been talking about robustness feature of our product or services. That how to face the unforeseen circumstances gracefully and how to exit from the unforeseen circumstances gracefully. How to ensure that when a scalability is required, the system is capable of a scalability feature, and the performance of the system should not go down. And even if the performance is little going down, at least it is not going to hang, or it is not going to go in infinite kind of situation, which may lead to a disastrous kind of event. But we have never been talking about resilient human, that the kind of the stress which are happening in our day-to-day life and all-round stress. It's not only that it is our mental stress, it is physical stress, and the stress are coming because of variety of the sources, and the post-COVID that has gone in many fold. So this topic, when I have come across to this topic and spoken to and gone through the work which Mega is doing, I thought there could not have been a better topic than this. And in order to moderate this, my friend Mr. Daman, he has been talking about resilient organizations, resilient product, resilient services, etc., etc. So I thought let's ask and request Mr. Daman to moderate this session. So I'm thankful to all of you. I have always been advocating that there is change is inevitable, and if we do not change upfront, possibly the changing ecosystem will change us. And that's how I keep saying that इंसान घर बदलता है, लिबास बदलता है, रिश्ते बदलता है, दोस्त बदलता है, फिर भी परेशान क्यों रहता है? क्योंकि हम अपने आप को नहीं बदलते. And that's how the Ghalib said that उमर भर गालिब यही भूल करता रहा, धूल चेहरे पे थी और मैं आईना साफ करता रहा. We have been talking about the stress happening in and around us, and we have also been talking about the kind of the depression with which the people were going, but we have never realized that how and in which way we should be strong from inside to deal with all these kind of unforeseen situation. And today's webinar, today's session is going to address to that particular aspect. And this is our 85th webinar of the series, in addition to few faculty development programs under the collaboration of IEEE Delhi section that is not being counted in this series. So the purpose is to disseminate information, purpose is to keep fellow professionals connected in the learning process, and that's how I always say that keep learning despite disruptions in and around us, because the process of learning will only give us confidence to face any and every kind of unforeseen situations. So thank you so much. Wish you all the best. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay vibrant, be away from monkeypox, from all other variations of COVID, and let's wish all the best to each one of us. So thank you so much. Over to you, Ayushi, and let's move ahead.
Thank you, sir, for always inspiring us. Thank you. I would now like to welcome amongst us our expert speakers, Ms. Megha ma'am and Mr. Damandev Sood sir with an e-bouquet. As a founder and the CEO of the Resilient Human, Ms. Megha ma'am injects resilience into the business DNA by developing strong leaders that can thrive mentally, physically, and spiritually. Her work revolves around amplifying human performance through resilience, application of small but mighty strategies to create sustainable results in the workplace. Former management consultant at the Deloitte Consulting and Telecommunications Executive at Altice and Charter Communications, Megha Ma'am drove business transformation through simplification over a 16-year career trajectory. From overseeing multiple business units, leading team of 120 plus employees across US, facilitating executive briefings to Fortune 100 CEOs on critical aspects of customer experience to partnering with the best brains in the media industry, she has experienced remarkable growth and business impact. She possesses a bachelor's in technology from Jamia Millia Islamia in India, MBA in strategy, executive education, and health coach certification. We feel honored to address our another intellect speaker for the evening, Mr. Damandev Sood sir. With over 37 years in the industry and over 18 years in the resilience domains, he is a certified international and corporate trainer with over 10,000 hours of training teaching experience. In his professional journey, he has played various executive roles like principal consultant, group head, practice head, COO, CIO, VP, board member, etc., and is currently working with EY as program director, operational resilience. He has traveled, worked to in over 20 countries. He is also a speaker and author of 3 books, out of which fourth is also underway. Daman sir has served clients in various industry sectors like government, IT, banking, financial services, insurance, telecom, marine, manufacturing, pharma, power, media, trading, etc. On his journey, he won multiple national and global awards, including ILA's Global Outstanding Leadership Award 2021, BCI's C&R Business Continuity Manager of the Year Award India 2009, BCI's Merit Award Global 2012, BCI's Continuity and Resilience Contributor Award Middle East 2020, DRIIS Lifetime Achievement Award 2021-2022 as a finalist, BCI's Continuity and Resilience Contributor Award Global India and South Asia 2021. He has also been inducted into BCI Hall of Fame. Not only this, the great visionary spent considerable efforts on his pro bono work also, in which he is mentoring with IEEE, Mentor Card, TeamWise, etc. He is the chair of Computer Society chapter, chair of the PR and P Standing Committee, IEEE Delhi section, and IEEE ambassador. I welcome both the great visionaries to this session. I would now like to request both my expert speakers to kindly enlighten the House. Please, sir, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Megha, welcome to show. And once
Again,
again,
sir.
thanks for logging in so early from New York. Well, we have some formal questions, Megha, but I'm going to start with some informal questions, and that's about IEEE. This is how we met about decades ago, and this is how we are meeting today once again. So platform is IEEE. Question is, what value did you see in IEEE when you were a student member? What value did you see in IEEE when you entered into the corporate world? And what value do you see in IEEE today when you are running your own organization?
Great question, Daman sir. Before I dive into your question, I want to just take a quick moment to thank you for this great opportunity, as well as Professor Huda, Saurabh, Ayushi, and the rest of the team that's here, and representing several different universities, chapters, sections. It is such an utter privilege for me to be here with all of you. So thank you for your time and attention. Diving into the very first question you asked, Daman sir, I think IEEE, for me, in one word, has been a game changer for my own
Wow.
career.
Great.
I remember back in the days when I was an engineering student in the very first year at Jamia Millia University, pursuing BTech in electronics and communications. I hadn't heard about IEEE. One of the senior student leaders from the IEEE branch reached out to me, and he wanted to articulate the value proposition of IEEE. And after hearing the value prop, I was on the fence. Given the professional fee as a student we were supposed to pay, I come from a background with very humble beginnings. So I did not have a lot of financial backing growing up. So I was on the fence, but eventually after hearing the pitch, I gave in and I said, sure, sign me up. And from that moment, I never looked back. IEEE was so foundational to my student career. I became a part of the student branch within IEEE. I took on leadership roles and got immense exposure to build foundational skills of how you connect with leaders and people, how you communicate value, how you understand how technology transforms the world. So it has been a true game changer. I was very blessed to eventually become the chairperson of the local student group at Jamia Millia, as well as get exposed to several international conferences and events. I remember the chair of IEEE Delhi section, Dr. Mukhopadhyay, he interviewed me for a student event that was supposed to happen in Hong Kong. So I was interviewing for that. He interviewed me. I finally made it. That was my very first international trip when I ever got on the plane ever in my life. And since then, I just kept going with IEEE beyond the engineering experience. I actually stayed an IEEE Gold member, and I was given the opportunities to serve on the global IEEE Gold board. So I was the liaison and a member on that board where I was leading international webinars for IEEE for young professionals. So I did that, and it kind of fulfilled me in many ways, and it also gave me the opportunity to give back. So, I mean, all the way till now, who I am as a person, as a leader, I owe a huge portion of my personal professional success to IEEE for the skills that I was able to build early on in those formative years.
Great. Thank you very much, Megha, and very well said. And one word is enough. As you started with, the game changer. I also claim about myself, whatever I am today, I am because of IEEE. That's the value I personally see in IEEE. Next question, Megha, is in two parts. First part is easy and second part is difficult. So stay with me, bear with me. The first question that I'm asking is, what is your vision for your organization? How many employees do you plan to have in next 1, 3, and 5 years?
Sure. So for me, the vision for my organization is I want to inspire, I want to be the catalyst for inspiring positive change in corporations, in businesses. Obviously, I'm based in New York, so I want to start with corporate America because that's the corporate space I'm very well accustomed to. And I want to transform the leaders and how they operate, how they practice self-care, and how they turn into more resilient version of themselves. And eventually, how can they be more compassionate leaders so they can create an ecosystem, a better, conducive ecosystem for their teams? So by changing and transforming one leader, I would be influencing a huge organization that they lead. And that's my vision. And in terms of the growth of my organization, I started my company this year, actually in the second quarter of this year. So I'm very green and just getting started. In terms of the vision of growth for my company, I'm looking at partnership opportunities with other organizations where there are synergies. In terms of growth, I have always been ambitious. I want to create a multi-million-dollar organization. And more than the economic value, for me, the purpose and mission of this organization is of utmost importance, because I want to create something that's bigger than me, that's bigger than the bottom line of the company that I create, that we inspire positive change in terms of employee base. The sky is the limit. As I grow and build this organization, I will hire as many people as I need and as many experts I need to take
Correct.
this full steam.
We wish you all the best, Megha. But still, some number, please, because part 2, which is difficult, depends on that.
Yeah. So for the first year, for this year, I'm a solopreneur with partnerships with other business organizations. So I'll have partners. Next year, potentially somewhere between 5 employees, and in the following year, 10 to 20. And in the following year, beyond more.
Thank you very much. And for the benefit of viewers, it's not that we have been talking about IEEE only so far. We have actually already started talking about the topic that we had kept for the evening, which is resilient humans, people. If you look at myself, I have been talking a lot, training, consulting in the corporate world, resilience in the corporate world. It's only about last 2 years that I started thinking about resilient people also. In the past, I'm sure we all know there was a saying, people make organizations. I've changed this. I've coined a new phrase now. I say resilient people make resilient organizations. We need a resilient organization. We need a resilient planet. And the stepping stone is from people. That's why I'm asking this question. Difficult part, Megha. And you can skip it if you wish, if you're not comfortable. The question is, will you consider or will you keep this in mind, the IEEE work or membership, while offering employment to the people who come to your organization?
It's an interesting question, Daman sir. Obviously, at my core, I understand the value that IEEE leaders, members bring to the table. They understand not just technology, but in the ways that technology can enable the world. As I am going to be growing my business, I'm already looking at technological opportunities, including even considering metaverse options, to see how I can leverage the power of the metaverse to fuel my business, right? As we're going in that direction. So yeah, certainly, would be very much open to having, potential resources and leaders in this domain to partner with and bring into my organization.
Great. Thank you very much, Megha. Now let's start going into formal questions. Let's attempt to understand the personality, Megha. And I understand you take 6 steps, or you say there are 6 portions of the personality. So I'll attempt to do that in 6 steps with your request to be quick as much as, because otherwise we can be talking about you for long. We know, we have understood this now. All right. So a little about the geography or background, Megha.
Sure. I was born and raised in Delhi, India, and I have been living in New York or US for the past 12 years or so. I come from humble beginnings. I was the only child of my parents, and have always wanted to conquer the sky. So that's my background.
Correct. Thank you very much. Part 2 of personality, Megha, we understand, is your educational background or achievements. If you would like to talk about that also, about it.
Yeah. I have always been a keen learner. Starting from the school days to Jamia Millia Islamia and getting the engineering degree, moving to US to pursue an MBA in strategy from the Ohio State University, to getting executive education from one of the leading, programs in the world, the Betsy Magnus Leadership Institute, to now when I'm going through a formal health coaching program. I am an avid learner, always reading. You can see a lot of books in the back, and that's how I roll. I'm always a work in progress when it comes to education.
Great. Thank you very much. And once again, I say, resonating with those views, I'm a trainer and consultant, but I say and I believe in that, and I practice what I preach. Learning is forever. Learning and sharing is not 1 hour. This is 1 hour today we are keeping. Maybe this is just the beginning. This is one stepping stone. It's forever. I like that. Thank you very much. Would you like to talk about your experience also, Megha? Experience in the corporate world, most likely?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously I worked at TCS for about 4 years in India. And as
So
I
that
was
was your first employment, right?
That was my
After
very
India.
first employment. And as I worked with global clients as part of TCS, I realized that I understood technology. That was great, but I did not understand how the different aspects of business connected, from product to marketing to strategy to supply chain operations. And that's when I came to US to get an MBA in strategy. Fast forward to my corporate life here, I have worked at Deloitte Consulting as a management consultant for many years in different industries. And then thereafter, I switched to full-time positions in the industry, where I moved up the ladder as a telecom and media executive, starting as a manager, moving on to a director that led business integration activities for one of the largest acquisitions in the cable world, for Time Warner Cable and Bright House Networks, that happened back in 2016 or so. And then moved on. My experience has been around in the realm of strategy and operations, being the customer advocate, looking at business processes and figuring out how do we optimize them by leveraging technology and improving our business processes. So that's kind of my formal experience.
Great. Thank you very much. Mixing next 3 areas together for next couple of minutes, Megha. Please take us to, so that the viewers, audience start getting the flavor of that resilience that is inbuilt into Megha, your hobbies, passion, and your personal life.
Certainly.
Next few minutes, please.
Yeah, Daman sir, I will be sharing the screen so I could just speak to some of those aspects.
Yes, please.
In terms of, my own personal hobbies, I love traveling the world. IEEE got me hooked to traveling. As I was working for many boards, I was traveling to Asia Pacific, as well as US, South America, Canada. And, since then, I have never looked back. I travel a lot for personal pleasure, for education and other things. I'm an avid reader. In terms of my passion, as I said, I'm very, very passionate about building human resilience to drive and amplify performance. And I also have this huge passion for storytelling, to be able to convey a point in a very compelling way. In terms of my personal life, I live in New York with my husband, as well as a 2-year-old beagle dog. So that's about me. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. So I haven't discussed a little about this. Education in India, born and brought up in India, education in India, moved to US through the corporate world, becoming independent, running your own company, which you have just said that it's quite recent this year. What made you to move into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, loaded question, Daman sir. There's a variety, of things that led me to the path. Here's, some of the whys, right? I have been blessed to have a career trajectory that I could never even dream of. But at the end of the day, beyond the title, an incredible paycheck and all the accomplishments, something in me felt unfulfilled. I was definitely driving value and helping improve the bottom lines of corporations, but I wasn't necessarily leaving a legacy behind. I wasn't creating something that was bigger than me. I wasn't leaving that impact per my own standard. So that drove me into the world of entrepreneurship. So I could make an impact on the communities we live in, and I could potentially influence the corporate ecosystem where we see rampant stress and burnout. My desire to drive meaningful change is what led me down this path.
Great. Thank you very much. The topic that we had kept for the evening was resilience in people. So the question that comes to mind for you, Megha, is why do you think resilience is important in the context of people?
Yeah. I will say, Daman sir, you are an expert, and a thought leader in the realm of resilience. Yes, specifically beginning with organizational resilience to now, right? And nobody would argue how important it is for organizations to have that resilience, for them to be able to anticipate what's coming, to be able to prepare for it and respond, not react, respond to the changes that are coming in the world, right? That's very true for organizations, but we have never really looked at it from the lens of a human, and how do we drive their resilience? We kind of take it for granted, and I think the time is now, especially with everything that has unfolded in the past 2 years, to look at it from a whole different lens. Because as I understand and as I describe resilience, it's the ability, the capability of a person to recover very quickly from crisis, from difficult situations, to be able to bounce back without cracking, right? And this past few years have tested us. We're being hit by a global pandemic, by war right now, supply chain issues, inflation at its record, climate changes and fires here in California. Lack of inclusiveness and diversity is huge here, and we're feeling it. We're feeling the pain. So there is no time in history than now to focus on human resilience, because the complexity and the intensity of these pressures is not going anywhere. If anything, it will only amplify in the years to come. So the sooner we recognize that, and the sooner we start to build our inner resilience, the better off human civilization as well as the world and corporate ecosystem will be.
Great. Question comes to mind. While we have said this so many times, the word resilience, what is resilience according to you?
Yeah. So to describe, resilience, I'll give you an example, right? Resilience to me is the ability to bounce back without breaking.
Simple.
Simple. Yes. But I'll give an example though. There is,
Yes, please.
if we look at reed grass, it's a type of grass, a plant, right? So if there's a reed grass and an oak tree, and they both undergo a huge storm, we will see that reed grass may bend, but it bounces back. The oak tree, after immense pressure has been exerted on it, it will break, and it will never be able to bounce back. So that in a simple, layman's example, is resilience to me.
Okay. Is there any difference between personal resilience and organizational resilience?
Yes. There is and there is not. There's a lot of common threads. So just like corporations, I look at corporations or businesses, and I believe they have their core, right? In terms of what is their mission? What do they hold true to? How do they handle risks in the marketplace? How do they strengthen their ecosystem and invest in their human assets? So they're similar in that regard. Just a group of individuals with ideas that come together to create value is an organization. Human resilience is an individual. And we talk about in other contexts in the realm of a human, because we start talking about their personal life, their work life and all, which we don't necessarily talk in the corporate organizational resilience space. So yes, there are differences, but also commonalities.
Great. Thank you very much. Coming back to your slide, Megha, and going to the last point, actually. Another buzzword in the corporate world today, even in not non-corporate world, is DI, diversity and inclusion. So would you like to spend a little more time on this last point with respect to resilience, lack of inclusiveness?
Yeah, definitely. I will say as a brown woman that came to US, back in 2010, I was actually very, very fortunate to never have felt excluded. I always felt included. I never personally experienced glass ceilings in corporate America because I was a woman. It never happened, but I do have peers, colleagues, family members, extended people that I know that feel lack of inclusiveness and diversity. So we see that, big time in organizations. I was just fortunate to never experience that myself firsthand, but I do see it. And I also, understand that a lot of lack of inclusivity or diversity is a lot of it is not intentional. Humans are not trying to exclude people intentionally. It's just, unconsciously, subconsciously, they end up saying things or acting in ways that are driving lack of inclusiveness. And that needs to change with greater awareness and education in that realm. And both humans and organizations need to take firm, thoughtful actions to address that.
Right, thanks. And at this point, I would like to add a little that this challenge called inclusiveness or getting excluded is not only in countries like India or countries in this part of the world. This is a challenge across globe. And that's why even the United Nations has admitted or committed to work on this. And that's why one of the 17 goals, United Nations SDGs, Sustainable Development Goal, includes a portion on inclusiveness also. So once again, repeating, the challenge is not only in one country, it is across globe. Moving on to the next one. We have talked about resilience, a little about resilience in people or importance of resilience for people. How do we build resilience? That's the question for you now.
Sure, yes. So, from my lens, right, resilience cannot just be built in a split second. It requires a heck lot of discipline, thoughtfulness, and inculcating life habits over the years to be able to build that resilience of our minds, of our bodies, and our spirits. And I see this direct connection between the small but mighty changes we make to drive life habits and between human performance. I see that direct connection. I have experienced that firsthand as a person, as a leader, and I see the relevance of that everywhere. So embracing the right habits builds the resilience of the mind, body, spirit that gives us more energy to accomplish more things in the limited number of hours we have to amplify human performance. So that's the connection. An analogy, if I may give, is of a plane that is trying to take off. Whenever a plane is trying to take off, there's an n number of processes and systems that have to run in the background for that plane to start to pick and build some momentum. And after a lot of effort and energy, that plane takes off and gets to a high altitude. And then at that altitude, it can't just stop. It has to still fuel its engine with some level of fuel and energy and processes to continue flying at that level. And the human body is designed the very same way, where to be able to take off to get to that ideal state, we have to invest in appropriate life habits. And once we get to a state of momentum in flying, we still have to sustain those with some level of effort so we can continue to thrive and not crash and burn.
Thank you very much. I have been making a statement, Megha. To be resilient, and I'm talking of the people, to be resilient, We need to be strong physically, mentally, spiritually. For those who believe, there may be some people who don't believe in spirituality, and financially also. Financial, we are not touching today, but we'll attempt to go through the other three parts. So please tell us a little more about resilience of mind.
Of course. And I agree with how you describe resilience, Daman sir. Talking about resilience of mind, I just want to say our mind is that control room, right? That dictates everything that happens to us in this, living experience. And so I can't stress the importance of a healthy, fertile mind. I also want to take 1 second to talk about pressure and stress and separate them and explain why those two are different things. Since growing up all the way to now in the corporate world, I hear people say, stress is good. We all have to deal with stress. It's all right. You have to figure out how to live with stress. The reality is stress is not good. Pressure is good. It is great because it propels us, it challenges us, it extends us. But stress is negative. It has a lot of detrimental impact on us. Pressure only converts into stress, when we ruminate. And there's extensive research. There's this Harvard Business Review paper that I have linked here that talks about how pressure converts into stress. Only when we start, ruminating or worrying about what happened in the past or what's going to happen in the future, that's called rumination. And when we add that, we're not focused on the present moment. We are converting that pressure into stress that then manifests in the physiology of our bodies and minds, and it triggers a flight or fight or flight response. Not something I was familiar with until I got my education in the health coaching realm. And a lot of us, I never understood this, but the reality is our bodies from the evolution, we are coded in a way where when we are in stressful situations or something that challenges us, our bodies get into this mode where we are trying to either fight it or we're trying to run away from it. So when that happens, our adrenaline glands start to produce adrenaline hormone. And what that does is it amplifies our breathing, it increases our heart rate. Our bodies also start to produce the stress hormone called cortisol, which then causes our livers to produce more to release more sugar into our body so that our muscles have the energy to run away or respond to that enemy. And that's what stress does to us. Over time, when we're in a hyper stress state, our mission critical processes are somewhat limited. Our digestion slows down. Our body starts to act up on things and is inflamed more often, and it reacts to things that it's not supposed to, things that are, just normal foods and things. And so by being in that stress state all the time is not necessary in this world. In the old times, if there was an enemy or an animal or a danger, we would get into that state and then we would return back to the normal rest or digest state, which was a calmer state. But in this world, we stay constantly in the fight or flight mode. We never return to the restful state, and that's hurting our minds, that's hurting our bodies. And some practices I'd love to share quite briefly are here.
Yes, please.
First is journaling. I never believed in the power of journaling, but until a year ago, when I listened to Julia Cameron, she talks about morning pages and how we can use the power of journaling to clear mental blocks in our mind, to get clarity, to remove things that are unconsciously blocking our thought process. So I highly recommend, the idea of journaling, especially in the morning hours, to people. The other piece, and I'll say it together, is breathing practices as well as mindfulness. These are extremely powerful techniques that were talked about in India for ages, but they're never talked about or taught in in engineering schools or in business schools or in corporate world at all. But these are powerful techniques that can change and drive our performance. And breathing practices invoke, our parasympathetic nervous system and tell our bodies that we're okay, that we will survive. And mindfulness allows us to focus on things that are in front of us. It helps us contain the monkey mind, and it helps us build cognitive function and strength to the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And last but not the least, positive self-talk, affirmations. Sometimes we don't even know what that is, but I have been doing that for years without realizing what it is. It is really nothing but positive self-talk, telling yourself that you're capable, you're worthy, you can accomplish this no matter how hard. And when you say those things, even if you may not fully believe in it, more often you say those things, you are training your conscious and subconscious mind to start to act in those ways. And you act in those ways to drive those intended outcomes. So that to me is resilience of mind and few techniques, Daman sir.
Great. Thank you very much. Moving on to the body then, from mind to body, how do we build resilience of or resilience in body?
Yeah, several. I could go on for days on all these topics, but I'll be brief. So for the body, I will say there are no shortcuts, right? There are no hacks. Our bodies, naturally, our cells have a tendency to heal. We totally can heal from many things that happen to our bodies, but we just never give our cells the right ecosystem that promotes cellular healing. And so the things that we can do to build resilience of our bodies is, number one is nutrition. We are what we put into our bodies. With the Green Revolution, the world has solved a big portion of the hunger problem with a lot of great crops that were produced. But what we have cut down on is the quality of that produce, the nutritional content. The pesticides, the fertilizers, the toxins we're putting into the soil, they're all being fed to us through those foods, which is why eating organic foods that's free from toxins, pesticides is very important. Eating fresh food, not processed, non-processed food is important. Here, in US, we take a lot of pride in eating pineapples from Costa Rica or avocados from Mexico. What we don't realize is farther away that produce is coming from, with time, their nutritional value is going down. So if we can eat produce that's locally grown, and it's, the farm to plate is faster turnaround time, the better quality it is. So paying attention to that is very important. The other thing I'll say is paying attention to the colors on the plate. The colors represent, the different polyphenols or micronutrients that are produced by plants. And they contain different types of antioxidants. So the more colors we have on our plate, the more different variety of fruits and vegetables we include, the more different types of antioxidants we are consuming for our bodies to heal quickly. Reducing the unhealthy portions of food on our plate is key, very important to pay attention to. And something that's very much free is water. We don't drink enough water. We all need anywhere between 12 to 16 cups of water a day. We do not end up consuming that. And that's very easy to drive and fuel our bodies. The other aspect beyond nutrition is movement. In this new world, or so-called world we've been living for several years, we have embraced a very sedentary lifestyle where we're just sitting all day long, right? So we got to be thoughtful about it. Potentially, having walking meetings during the day, or having a standing desk, or just finding few 5-minute breaks in the day goes a long way, as well as incorporating activities such as, yoga, running, hiking, weightlifting, stretching, all go a long way. And the more variety we can bring on, the better it is for our, human bodies. Last but not the least, very important, is sleep. I cannot stress the importance of sleeping, because that's when our cells go through the healing process. I would stress both the quality and the duration of sleep. We don't get enough hours. Even if we get enough hours, we're not sleeping good quality. So paying attention to factors that impact our sleep, things such as the room temperature, the amount of light that you're getting, in the room when you're sleeping, to food consumption and calories you're consuming right before you sleep, to physical activity that helps drive melatonin that makes you sleep, to the amount of Blu-ray exposure we get from our cell phones and TVs. All of these factors go a long way, and we don't pay attention to that. So I'd like to just quickly, I just want to touch upon these. I can definitely talk about these for length, but something to trigger for the audience here.
Great. An observation on this slide, Megha. Well, there are just 3 bullets: nutrition, movement, and sleep. But if I look at sub-bullets, there's a lot on nutrition. I was expecting, when we talk of resilience of body, I was expecting a lot about exercising, physical movement, etc. So a bit surprising.
Yeah, I ran out of space on this slide, Professor Daman. So I did not include all that. But yes, movement is key. For me, over time, I have incorporated different kinds of movements in my own daily schedule. When we move, when our muscles move, when our bones get that healthy dose of movement, our bodies start to produce happy hormones that are then released. They're released into our bodies. They also, tell our brain that we're in a good state. And when we're in that happy state, we are able to make better decisions. We are able to deal with more pressure with less toll on our bodies, right? And so that's what movement does to our bodies. And as I mentioned before briefly, I've always been a yoga practitioner for many, many years, and that's all I did for movement. More recently, when I went through an executive education program here, I realized that I was only practicing yoga, but I needed to incorporate, activities that helped my cardiac function, that made me breathe faster, things like running, jumping, as well as lifting weights or doing pull-ups for my muscles. And those were the things that I wasn't doing. And now I've incorporated those into my day-to-day, and I encourage others to bring those on, because that variety is important. If you follow one modality, you will not see the well-rounded benefits of movement. So you got to experiment and find things in the movement space that work for you.
Okay, great. Let's talk about the last part, the spirit as well.
Yeah. So this topic, nobody, talks in corporate America. Nobody has talked about this in engineering school at Jamia or TCS. But hey, I'm going to talk about it because I have seen a huge linkage between how fulfilled our soul or spirit is to performance, whether it's personal or professional performance. For me, I would say finding that purpose was very important. And the big question I asked myself when I was trying to find my own purpose was that if money or time was not a constraint or a limiting factor, what would I be doing in this life? Right? What fuels me? What energizes me? And that gave me the answer that my soul was, wanting or looking to hear, right? So I did that, and I encourage others to find their purpose. And as much as I understand that not everybody can walk away from a corporate job to start their own company and take that risk, I encourage people to make small moves, make small changes, do things that fuel their purpose, participate in extracurricular activities, voluntary groups, nonprofits, what have you, to find that purpose of life. The other piece is the idea of impermanence. It's a Buddhist principle in thought that everything that we are experiencing is impermanent. Everything is gonna collapse or degenerate. And as much as a spiritual concept it sounds, if you bring it into the corporate realm, I think it can be a game changer. Because when we stop associating ourselves so deeply to our titles, to our paychecks, to our projects, to, a bad day we've had, or to, an unsuccessful project. The moment we start to detach ourselves from it by the idea of impermanence, the more present we can be, and the more we can focus on that problem, and the greater clarity we get to accomplish results, right? So that's why I want to bring this idea of impermanence into the corporate DNA.
Okay.
In terms of, the techniques that I want to talk about, there's many, but few that I have used and I highly recommend is, number one, connecting with nature. There is this immense power in being in the presence of nature, walking through, trees, forests, if you will. In Japan, actually, there is this, function called forest bathing, where the doctors actually recommend or prescribe to their, patients to go into the forest and walk around for 20 minutes, because it has proven to heal a lot of things within us. It reduces the amount of pressure in strain on our bodies and minds. So I highly recommend that. Now we can even bring potted plants into our workplace and bring some element of nature into our day-to-day. The other, another big one for me is practicing gratitude. And somebody might say, oh, I'm thankful for everything. Why gratitude? It is huge. And the more I study and dive into the realm of human vibrations, and not to go too deep into it, but, we as humans are, vibrating at certain frequency. And this is all physics. It's not something we made up. And when we are experiencing negative emotions, hatred, jealousy, fear, we are vibrating at a much lower level. And when we move to positive frequencies like love, joy, gratitude, we go to higher vibrations, which are great for us, for our bodies, minds, and they allow us to amplify our performance. So every time we sit down and think about one or two or few things that we are grateful for, it changes our body frequency and brings us to a higher frequency that ultimately changes how we feel. We give a different message to ourselves and our bodies, as well as to the people that we're interacting. So I highly recommend, counting small things in our life when we can on a daily basis. Obviously, finding ways to give back, finding something that's bigger than you is very, very fulfilling. And it's actually beneficial for our own self. So I highly encourage that. And lastly, pursuing your own hobbies, right? Don't get carried away in the craziness of your days, because your minutes will turn into, years and decades, and the whole life will be gone. We got to find those hobbies or things that bring us personal fulfillment to drive our souls. Because if our souls are fulfilled and happy, then we can amp up and we can, go deeper and faster and be a much high performing human than when our souls are not fulfilled.
Great. Thank you very much, Megha. We talk of resilience. We cannot complete the discussion without stress. And you touch upon that, Megha, stress portion. For decades, few decades, I have been saying the best stress buster is go out and do a good act. Help someone. That's the best stress buster, according to me. Looking at the time, Megha, I would like to wind up in the next 5 minutes or so. The last question that comes to mind is, yes, all this is theory, Megha. You have taken us through a journey. All right, but it's theory. Practicing what we preach. So if you would like to talk a little about that, how do you put these principles or points or indicators that you have put to us? Do you do these? How do you do these in your personal life?
Absolutely. So for me, I certainly practice what I preach. In terms of, my, day to day, I have over the years incorporated small changes over the years, and I've added new things that work for me to create this system or set of practices that work great for me. So from the moment I wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, one thing that I do not do is I do not try to touch my phone unless I'm expecting something really urgent. That phone is far away from me. I'm not touching that, and that goes a long way. And I really protect my mornings. I watch them like a hawk. And for the next, hour and a half, I have a series of, things that I do personally that I share, through my content on LinkedIn and beyond, that I can share, but very quickly. I obviously spend time journaling. The very first thing I do when I'm still in a dreamy state is I write 3 pages of anything that comes to my mind, positive, negative, ugly. I write those down, and that's for no one to read or for even for me to read, but that allows me to clear my mental blocks and get into a better frame of mind. And then I obviously practice 10 minutes of meditation, about 20 minutes of yoga and working out in my home gym, as well as drinking, first thing in the morning, drinking warm water with some lime or Himalayan salt and so on to kind of detoxify my system. And then I try to read a little bit in the morning to fuel my brain. And then ultimately, after a quick morning walk, I would check my phone, I would power up. So by the time it's 7:30, I'm in my office and ready to go. So that's my morning routine. During the day, I make small changes. I watch what I eat, what I put in my body. I try to stay away from processed food. A lot of fruits and vegetables, a lot of water, green teas are part of my day. And then I have a very rigorous evening schedule. So I really pay attention and watch the hours in the morning, and I watch the hours at night because they are my time to recharge and refuel. In the evenings, I try to have dinner early, and then I try to go out for a walk so I can digest the food. And then I try to work out for, quick 15 minutes to kind of get that healthy dose of physical activity. And then I meditate for just, 10 minutes to decompress and get into a great frame of mind. And then ultimately I have my, herbal tea, non-caffeinated, and then I call it a day and doze off, and I sleep wonderfully. And every morning I wake up, I have incredible energy, and I can't wait for the day to get started. So that's how I practice what I preach, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, Megha. While we're running against the time, one question still comes to mind, which was not on the paper. We talked about mind, body, and spirit. I'm surprised you didn't touch upon technology detox. So a minute only, but if you would like to talk about technology detox,
So
because I believe that's a big challenge in our lives today.
yeah. So technology, it's an enabler, but it can also degrade us. If we let technology to kind of rule our lives without even realizing we're a slave to it, right? So I watch the technology and I curate the information that hits me, that is being consumed by me on a day-to-day basis. So as much as I believe in the positive power of technology, I also believe in on the other side of technology where we lose the social connection and we get easily distracted. So that's what I will say, Daman sir, to be brief.
Great. Thank you very much. While wrapping up, I would like to make a statement. And once again, I have phrased this. Personal resilience, which leads to organizational resilience, is a journey of transformation. It's not a quick hack. You said that. I say it's a journey of transformation, little steps, but many little steps required. Any final thoughts? Few seconds.
Yeah. So the only thing I would tell you is to all the people on this call, we only have one life to live. And I would like to say we can all be a better version of ourselves by making those small but very mighty changes. So I wish you nothing but the very best. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Any plans to come back to India, Megha? I know you're traveling
Yes.
back in this month, next month, right?
Yeah, in late
Any
September,
plans to
early.
come back to India?
To move, no. My husband is here. I'm now a US citizen. So I
Okay.
will never move back to India. At least that's not in the plans for now, but who knows in the future.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Megha, once again, sparing time for us early morning from New York. Back to you, Professor Ayushi.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Megha ma'am, for such an enlightening deliberation. And Daman sir has so wonderfully moderated this. I think I am left with no questions. Moreover, audience are very clear. So just one more question I would like to take up, ma'am, with your permission.
Please.
Participants want to know how much do qualities such as inclusion and diversity instill parsimonious levels of resilience at the team and institutional scales?
I think they're pretty significant in the realm of teams and bolstering the collective power of teams, right? Teams are nothing but a collection of humans that come together for a common cause to achieve a particular goal. And if those humans don't feel, if even if one human in that group does not feel included, that impacts the collective power of that group. So it is of utmost importance, and which is why diversity and inclusion has become such a huge rising element in the business and beyond world. If I may even say, I see the other extreme now, unfortunately, in the corporate world, where people think of diversity as just a collection of people with different colors or sex or gender. But the reality is, it's not just about diversity, is not just about diversity of how we look, it's also diversity of how we think, how we approach things. Two people may look very similar, but they could be very diverse. So we often confuse diversity with just the cosmetics, but there is a lot more depth to diversity that over time we will recognize in the world.
We will talk on this topic at length someday because this is a real challenge, Megha. We have not understood the diversity inclusion correctly in the
Yes.
corporate world.
Yes.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. I would now like to request Professor M.N. Huda, sir, to kindly present a certificate to Ms. Megha, ma'am, and Daman, sir, as a token of our remembrance.
Thank you so much, Ms. Megha, and to my friend, Mr. Daman. He has always been such an interactive moderator, and that too, keeping an eye on the time for such a topic, which otherwise, if we keep on deliberating for entire day, possibly there are so many dimensions and so much of vulnerabilities from outside world that will not be sufficient time. So thank you so much for deliberating on the topic and enlightening all of us that how, in which way, what are the sources, and how, in which way we can build ourselves, make as strong as possible, and in the world of the technology, let me put it as robust as possible, so that we should finally become the resilient. Maybe the degree of resiliency may vary, but if we start understanding this resiliency the way you have explained, probably it will become much easier to deal with the circumstances which are coming in one or other way around all of us. So thank you so much to both of you for having been with us and lighting on such an interesting topic. And I'm sure many more sessions on this interesting topic will be required. So I will certainly request you in future for that. And this certificate is not for the purpose of certification. I know you don't need any certificate, but this certificate is for the purpose of remembrance that you have been part of this lovely webinar, which has spoken on so many possible different dimensions of this wonderful topic. So thank you so much.
Sorry.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, sir. I would now like to present an e-memento to both our expert speakers as a gratitude from BBI Camp family. So this one is for you, Megha ma'am. Thank you for joining and giving us time. Another one to you, Daman sir.
Thank you so much. Again, the change, the mementos, the certificates, and the bouquet, everything is online, everything in electronic into the nature. So that is the change. Thank you so much. And now you are free and at your liberty to decide when to leave the room. And dear participants, this meeting room is now converted into a facilitation desk, help desk, to ensure that all of you who have attended this webinar in the WebEx room, not on the YouTube. If you have attended on the YouTube, we are sorry. The participants on the YouTube will not get the certificates. But those who have attended here, we are going to make this meeting room into a facilitation desk, and the feedback form which will be filling, based on that, the certificate will be generated. And if there is any issue, my team members, Ayushi and Mr. Manish, will be taking care of that. And with this note that there are many more webinars which have already been notified, so you may register for them, or you may join any of our WhatsApp groups so that you can receive the link in time. And wish you all the best. Keep learning despite disruptions, and stay safe, stay healthy, stay vibrant, and take care of all near and dear people along with you. And with this note कि आपने देखा होगा हर सुबह एक नया फूल खिलता है और शाम होते होते उसकी लाइफ खत्म हो जाती है, लेकिन इस वादे के साथ कि अगले दिन फिर सुबह एक नया फूल खिलेगा। तो फूलों की तरह फिर खिलेंगे हम, फूलों की तरह फिर खिलेंगे हम, और अगले लेक्चर सेशन में फिर मिलेंगे हम। थैंक यू सो मच, ऑल द बेस्ट।
This is the best that one could have said about a resilience.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. I thank all our distinguished panelists and participants who have continuously supported us by joining our webinar. A big thank you all of you who have joined us on this auspicious day. You may register to our forthcoming webinars. I thank Saurabh sir for joining and giving his time. Dear participants, the link of the feedback form has been shared on the chat window. I request you to please find the link, tap on the same, you'll find a feedback form, fill up the form, submit, and once you submit the form, the certificate of participation shall automatically be generated to you in PDF. Also, dear participants, the recorded videos are being made available at the earliest possible at our BVI CAM YouTube channel. You may find the details of our YouTube channel at the chat window. Subscribe the same for regular updates. You may find the link of the feedback form, dear participants. I request you to kindly enter the correct data on the feedback form, like your name, your organization, as you require in your certificate. Also, you can refer and give a Gmail ID, as the auto system works seamlessly for the Gmail. Dear participants, we will not be sharing this link on Gmail or WhatsApp. The link has been shared on the chat window. You may find the same for smooth automated generation of your certificate of participation. Dear participants, you all are requested to please find the link of the feedback form from the chat window. Tap on the link, you will find a feedback form. Fill up the form meticulously, dear participants. Kindly do not make any errors. Also, once you submit the form, the certificate shall automatically be generated to you in PDF. We will not be sharing this link through Gmail or WhatsApp. You are requested to please find the link from the chat window. Also, dear participants, the link is only active till the window is open. So I request you to find the link and fill up the form soon. Dear participants, you have to note that the certificate shall be generated based upon the data filled up by you in the feedback form. So you write your name, your organization correctly as you want it in your certificate. You can give any Gmail ID as the auto system works seamlessly for Gmail. Meeting room is open, dear participants. We may not be able to resolve your queries related to your certificate once we close the room. So kindly write any queries related to your certificate on the chat window. We would be happy to help you.